When it comes to setting transportation policy in Oregon, that responsibility falls onto the Oregon Transportation Commission, which oversees ODOT. Currently, the Oregon legislature is considering what's called the Oregon Transportation Reinvestment Package, or TRIP, that seeks to raise $1.9 billion in the next biennium. That could include higher fees and new taxes. Beyer is vice chair of the Oregon Transportation Commission, a former longtime state legislator himself. He joins us from his home in Springfield. Mr. Beyer, welcome to Eye on Northwest Politics.
Thank you, Ken.
Well, ODOT says there's been a drop in gas tax revenue, a rise in inflation, restrictions on available funding. How has all that affected Oregon's ability to address its transportation needs?
Well, where we find ourselves right now is, frankly, the cost of maintaining the highway systems is just gone through the roof the last few years. The cost of materials and labor has gone up over 50%. So at this point, without some new revenue, we just don't have the money to maintain the system the way I think people would like it to be maintained. And we've got some major projects that need to be completed that were approved back in 2017 as part of that transportation package. And that's kind of where we find ourselves. And we've got a big bridge to build.
Yes, we'll talk about that in just a moment here. What is the total transportation budget, and how much of a shortfall do we have in terms of meeting those needs?
Well, I don't have the number off the top of my head of the total. It's a lot of money. It's a mix of federal funds and state funds. But the shortfall that we projected was about $1.9 billion, roughly, in terms of what we would be short. The department's been holding positions open for the last 3 biennia, actually. And we've got about almost 500 positions that we haven't been able to fill to do the work that needs to be done. So that's kind of the situation. Most of the money that the legislature has approved in 2017 and over the past was dedicated to particular new projects, new improvements on the system. And so that money's not been available to do the everyday maintenance on the systems, de-icing the roads in the winter or plowing in the mountains, replacing barriers when somebody runs into them, that sort of thing.
How much are we dependent on federal funding? And is any of that funding at risk right now?
Federal funding currently isn't at risk, but the new administration is, sort of rattled the cages a little bit. So we're not exactly sure. Probably most at risk is some of the funding that we have available for the Rose Quarter project that people wanted there. There was some very huge federal grants for that. And those are the ones that we would like to, that we hopefully will come through.
Yeah, where are we on the 2 major projects in the Portland area, which you have mentioned or alluded to already, new Interstate Bridge and the expansion of Interstate 5 near the Rose Quarter? Where are we on those projects?
Well, the Interstate Bridge project is moving ahead. That's a project that we're doing jointly with the state of Washington. And there's been work on it a long time. You may recall that the Oregon legislature, when I was in that body, we approved that project in 2013, but Washington State did not. So that started back up again in 2021, I believe, or 2022. And we've had to go through all of the environmental work again on that project that's required for federal funding. We have a commitment of a soft commitment, I will say at this point, of a little over $1 billion from the federal government for that project. And they just closed out the environmental review and got something like 6,000 comments from citizens across the 2 states that they're working through and have to answer. But we hope that project will move forward, probably not start construction itself until, I believe it's 2027.
And what about, sorry to interrupt you there, what about the Rose Quarter expansion?
The Rose Quarter project, we've got some preliminary work that's starting, preliminary construction this construction season. And frankly, that kind of depends on whether the legislature appropriates money to do the complete project. We've got, it's matched. There's some match there for federal funds, but it's really, we're looking to the legislature for guidance on that. That was a project that was originally approved by the legislature. Actually, it was a much different, much smaller project when the legislature approved it in 2017. But it's the design that's on the table now is one that was worked out with what the citizens of Portland wanted.
What kind of taxes and fee increases are possible that we could be looking at in the future? That's what I mentioned in the introduction, that you're looking to raise revenue to handle some of this backlog. So what kind of taxes and fee increases could we be looking at?
Well, we haven't seen a bill from the legislature yet, so I'm not exactly sure what those things would be. But the traditional approaches are probably an increase in the gas tax. I think they released what the legislature called a framework, the committee that's working on it, and they had I believe it was a gas tax increase of 20% or 20 cents spread out over a number of years. And they had an increase in the traditional vehicle registration fees. So there's a mix of those. Then there was a small increase in the payroll tax that supports transit as well, that was in their original proposal. But again, we haven't seen a bill, and so I'm not really sure what the legislature is going to do with all that.
And that's part of what they're discussing right now in Salem, is how much of this transportation package will include fees like that. Governor?
Well, I think the important point on that is if they don't approve something, the Rose Quarter project, we will not be able to go forward with that and to complete it the way people want it without some money from the legislature. And as regards to maintaining the highway system, we will have to cut back that effort considerably, and probably mainly just focus on the interstate roads and the major highways that are used to move, our commerce around, the freight routes.
So you'll have to prioritize a lot of the projects that are on backlog right now.
And people should keep in mind that any gas tax or any of those fees that are raised, half of that money goes to local governments to support the local streets.
We've got about a minute left, but I do want to ask about Governor Kotek putting a moratorium on tolls until 2026. That's key to projects on I-5 and I-205. So do you expect tolling to be back on the table?
That's really a question you need to put to the legislature. The legislature is the one who said we should toll those roads in support of the project as opposed to raising taxes. And I think that question is on the table, but I haven't seen that in any legislation that they want to do that, with the exception of the Interstate Bridge.
Lee Beyer from the Oregon Transportation Commission, thank you for taking the time and being on Eye on Northwest Politics.
Thank you, Ken.